Hey guys, welcome back to 1776 or Bust. On the table, you see four amazing handgun choices from Austria. That would be Steyr and Glock. Now, of course, you have an L9, an M9, you have your Glock 19, your Glock 17. All of these here you see are Gen 4s, or at least consider Gen 4s. These are the newest gens of the Steyr. Why? Because you can tell because of this and because of that. There's a little roll pin there in the sights and, of course, of the grips. Other than that, these are very great handguns in regards to comparing, because there's a lot of people out there who really like the Glocks, and I can't blame you. I like Glock as well. I think they're fantastic firearms, and they do everything you need them to do. With that being said, there's always room for improvement, and I think that's where Steyr comes into play. Now, of course, if you look at all four of these handguns, what you're going to notice is that there are some significant differences, or at least there appears to be. Now, for those people out there who say that the Glock grip is just way too different, it's uncomfortable, the angle is off. You know, some people just have this thing that the Glocks are not comfortable. For me, I like the way they fit in my hands. I've never had a problem with that. You know, the only issue I've ever had was with slide bite, and that's why you see the extended beaver tail there. Again, it would be nice if Glock would actually do something like that out of the factory, but they don't. Again, I would say if I had to choose between which one I like better than between the 17 and 19, for me, the 17, I love it. I think it's a great size. I really like the way it feels in the hand. Even though the Glock 19 is more compact and much more carryable, I actually like the way the 17 fits better. Now, with that being said, you have two great choices right here. And what's interesting between this one and this one is that technically, guys, they're the same exact gun. The only difference is one has a longer slide than the other. The M9 is what you would consider a comparison or a direct comparison to a Glock 19. Even though a lot of people say the L9 is more comparable to the Glock 17, I would tell you that's not actually the case. The Glock 19 and the L9 are very identical in features and in size, with the only difference being, of course, the slide length, this 4.5-inch slide compared to a 4-inch slide on a Glock 19. With that being said, there are some people say, oh, come on now, the grip of a Steyr is much longer than a Gen 4 19. And I would tell you that not really. And what I'm going to show you here, which is kind of interesting, is when you look at the two guns, the Glock definitely looks like it's going to be a lot bigger. Now, of course, when you do a back-to-back comparison, what you're going to find, and I'm going to put these on a table really quick so I can line them up from top to top. You're going to notice that L9 grip only extends a little bit more. And the reason being is because of the way this is actually angled. If this was actually a flatter cut, it would most likely be the same exact length as the Glock 19. All right, so you can see that right there. There's really no other difference. Again, in regards to ergonomics, some would say that the Steyr is definitely one of the most ergonomic guns in the world. In my opinion, they're right. It is. And the reason why that is because the way they've cut this up in the back here. Now, of course, if you were to compare this, and I think the best comparison would be with a Glock 17, so you really can see it. The real difference between the angles on the grip is not actually the angle. It's actually where the hump of the Glock comes to the bottom, as opposed to the top where the L9 or the M9 or the S9 or the C9 is. With that said, what you're going to find is that this angle of this grip is very much like the angle of the M9. As a matter of fact, let me try to zoom in. I'm trying to do too many things at once here. But if you notice, the grip angle on the Glock is almost identical to the grip angle on the M9. Again, the only difference you see here is that with the Glock, you have this lower hump at the bottom, and that's what a lot of people always complain about. With the Steyr, what they've decided to do, and you can see that right here, is instead of having this big kick out at the bottom, they actually start it right underneath the undercut. So it actually slopes around, so it's more curved at the top as opposed to the bottom. So when your hand goes onto that gun, it sits a lot more comfortably for probably the majority of people than probably, let's say, a Glock that has that big hump at the bottom. With that being said, one of the other advantages that the Steyr has is the way they cut this under here. The undercut is actually a lot deeper into the frame of the gun as opposed to a Glock. Now you'll see here I have the beaver tail, so that kind of hides this piece right here. But not, you know, again, when you get your Glock and you're holding that Glock, your hand gets under there because it is a low riding gun, but nothing compared to this Steyr. I mean, the Steyr just, you know, definitely eats up your hand, and I like that. Now, of course, if you look at both guns, it doesn't necessarily look like the Steyr has the advantage, but you have to realize that you're getting a beaver tail here to extend that back. If that beaver tail wasn't there, this wouldn't actually extend as far back as the Steyr would. And you can see that that Steyr just rests comfortably inside the hand. And that's one of the major features that I like about it. In regards to some of the other comparable features, the triggers out of the box, if these were stock triggers from Glock, I would tell you that it stands no chance. You know, out of box triggers on any Steyr are fantastic. You know, this has over 1,000 rounds in it. This trigger right now is weighing roughly, I think, maybe 4 pounds. And that's after breaking it in. And I'll be honest with you, out of the box, it was only slightly 4 pounds. So I'm actually going to measure this right now so we can see. Whoops. So that's its trigger right there. 3 pounds, 11.4 ounces. And that's the first pull. Now, the L9 has a couple of hundred rounds in it, so not even close to the other one. And let's see where that one pulls at. It's a little difficult to do this. So you can see that's 4 pounds, 6.2 ounces. So the triggers out of the box are fantastic. 4 pounds on average. And as you break them in, they go a little bit below that. Maybe not so much below 4, but very close to that 4 threshold. And I think that's an excellent trigger for a carry firearm. In regards to, you know, a Gen 4 Glock, you're looking at around 6.5 pounds out of the box. Obviously, both these triggers are aftermarket triggers, so it's not going to make sense to compare them. But at the same time, aftermarket, obviously Glock will win because there's many more options to it. But out of the box, the Steyr, I think, has one of the best triggers, bar none. Now, of course, one of the big complaints also for the Steyr handgun is the fact that on their handguns, the trigger, while it's extremely nice, a little bit of take up, and then it breaks. The biggest problem that people have is in regards to the reset. And that's it. It's not a very audible reset. It's not very tactile either. But honestly, guys, if you're in a self-defense situation, I still don't think the reset's going to make a difference for you, to be honest with you. If you're at the range, the gun is extremely easy to understand how to use. It's extremely easy to shoot. And this trigger is very natural, even when it resets without that positivity that most people want. It's still a very nice trigger. Again, if you want to do a takedown of the gun, everybody knows how to take down a Glock. Let me just do this really quick here. I'm trying to do this with a microphone and a camera in my face. But you see, you just basically push down this button, pull forward the lever, and the slide comes right off. No trigger pull needed. Again, very, very simple, very, very nice. You know, nothing big deal there. Again, you can see the thickness of your rails on here. Very, very nice. And I have to say, to me, that shows that this gun is built like a tank, and that's pretty awesome. Again, if you want to compare this to, let's say, a Glock 17 or a 19, it won't matter. If you look at the slide, again, no big deal there, whoop-de-doo. But then if you look at the frame here, you can see very typical, smaller rails, thinner pieces of steel compared to this beast, the Steyr. So in my opinion, the Steyr just has a better build quality maybe. Again, you can see the thickness of the plastic there, or the polymer, very thin as opposed to very thick here. So it does make the gun look a lot bigger and thicker because, well, you know, the polymer is. With that being said, the polymer is extremely rigid. Some people say that the Glock is not, and I can tell you, I get a little flex in there. With this, a little flex also, but that's normal. I mean, I would not worry about any of that stuff. In regards to everything else, takedown is simple. Glock's takedown is simple, so that's a good thing. The other interesting thing is slide height. A lot of people like or favor the Glock slide height because it is low. But if you look at the Steyr, you're going to notice that that slide is much thinner. Now, width-wise, they're about the same. I will tell you that the Steyr is a little bit thicker. However, if you look at from top to bottom, you'll notice that the Steyr actually has the advantage there. And again, you know, it's very CZ-ish, I guess you could say. And in that regards, to me, Steyr wins on that way. Again, you can see how much lower the recoil spring is compared to here. And I wonder if that has something to do with how well this gun shoots, because when that recoil happens, it's hitting more into the center of a gun, which is kind of interesting because when you look at that recoil spring, it does resemble somewhat the way the Hudson H9 was built, with that center, I guess you could say almost like a centered mounted guide rod. Again, there's a lot of great styling cues that, in my opinion, Steyr has maintained. And I think, honestly, if I was going to pick which was the best, I couldn't tell you because I just, there's something about Glock I still like. But for me, the Steyr has always been great. In regards to that, the M9 is a great handgun. Again, it compares very well to a Glock 19, albeit being a little bit bigger. However, the L9, in my opinion, is the best of both worlds because you're still getting that more compact grip with the longer slide. Again, if you want to compare the size of the grips of a Glock 17 and a Steyr L9, we'll just do that really quick. You can see that there's a little bit less on that grip, but really it's because of that angle. You know, if you straighten out that angle a little bit more, the Steyr L9 would actually be shorter in the grip, and it still is right now. So you're technically getting a longer slide with a shorter grip. That's basically in the ballpark of a Glock 19. Is it exact? Not really. It's off maybe by an inch. If that, I would say about half an inch, but it's definitely worth it. You know, again, two great choices from Austria. You guys decide which one you like. In my opinion, Steyr for me has been perfect. I've had no issues with any of the Steyrs that I've owned. They all shoot very well. I like the fact that any M9 magazine will fit an L9 and vice versa, as well as an S9 and of course the C9. So of course you have the mag compatibility, which is very similar to the Glocks. But again, for me, out of the box, if I was going to pick one and I only had one choice between a Steyr and a Glock, without any aftermarket things on it, I would pick the Steyr automatically. Now again, aftermarket, Steyr falls a little bit short, but it's still a fantastic gun. So tell me what you think. Which one would you choose? What do you like about the Steyrs? What don't you like about the Steyrs? And of course, what do you love or hate about the Glocks? So I hope you guys got a little bit information out of this video to make a determination if these Steyrs are worth it. In my opinion, they are. I love them. So I hope you guys have a great night. Stay safe out there. And as always, freedom is never free.